Cambridge University in the UK has launched an inquiry into how the 800-year-old institution benefited from slavery during the colonial era.
It is only right that Cambridge should look into its own exposure to the profits of coerced labor during the colonial period. We cannot change the past, but nor should we seek to hide from it.
Cambridge University isn't the only institution looking into its imperial past either. Other prestigious universities across the UK and in the US have been doing the same for years, facing up to their history and the potential gains they made back then. Cambridge's main rival, Oxford, for instance, faced a long dispute over a controversial statue of a 19th century colonialist, but claimed it would have faced severe financial cuts if that thing had been removed. Elsewhere, the University of East London tried to set up a £100 million fund for reparations for slavery, saying the money should be put aside to support ethnic minority students. Then in America, Harvard has removed the word master from its academic titles, and Georgetown students voted in favour of reparations too for the descendants of nearly 300 slaves sold by that university almost 2 centuries ago. We heard some opposing views on how actions in the very distant past should be tackled today, though.
These decisions are very much long overdue, and one would have thought that a country such as Britain, coming to terms with its colonial past, would have made these sorts of efforts much earlier. But nevertheless, I do have to applaud Cambridge and Glasgow for taking this initiative. And I think other institutions like the British Museum, the British Library, all of the colonial artefacts that there are in Britain as a consequence of colonial plunder should now be, in an act of reparation, returned to their countries of origins.
Look, no one can argue that slavery was a good thing. It was a horrendous thing. Of course, we should learn and teach our kids and educate ourselves, indeed, about the horrors of slavery. Let's just remind ourselves, though, that we were the first to abolish it. I don't think there's any nation in the world that hasn't either been enslaved or been involved in the slavery trade, including the continent, of course, of Africa itself. But I think this idea of paying reparations is ludicrous. Please spare me the horsehair shirt. This wasn't me or my generation who did this. We do need educating. People need to be aware of it. But who would you give the money to? Africans living in this country? Africans in Africa?
We're talking about 400 years of slavery. We're talking about a people robbed of their religion, their language, their culture and their familial resources, taken up, dropped in another island,
it was horrendous.
Treated, well,
it was horrendous.
400 years. It's
weren't West Africans involved in the trade?
It's unprecedented in modern times. So if you just let me finish the point, it's unprecedented in modern times. African nations like Ghana have already set up their reparation schemes. Gambia the same way. Sierra Leone. All of those have had reparation and apology schemes for the last 25, 30 years. So Britain is really just catching up.
I understand what slavery was, and it was horrendous. What I'm saying is, now, yes, look back, make sure we educate, make sure nothing like that can ever happen again. But for you to come up with a scale of slavery, African slavery was better than British slavery, it's kind of stupid, it's kind of silly. Cambridge University obviously can look into their history, and if they want to... You're still going on, Lee, and not being very polite. You're making yourself look absolutely silly. Cambridge University should be congratulated for looking back at what they do, but there's no need for the horsehair shirt. There's no need for us to be paying money to some black people. Which black people would it be?
Please don't do me the dishonour of coming on here and speaking from some morally elevated position that doesn't exist.